Good evening, everyone. How we doing? We should be here live. Hold on one second. We got stuff here. We're coming up here. Hold on one second, everybody here. There we go. There you guys are. You're right there, but I'm going to flip that around here in a minute. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome. Dispensary Guy Live. We're New Jersey Cannabis Association. Dinner night. We got some speakers and everything else, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get this fired up here, and as soon as we're ready to go, we'll hit go here. All right. I think we should be all set. Looking good. Yes, ma'am. Outside should be good. Here we go. All right, here we go.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started with tonight's presentations, and we have two different presentations. We have a special guest, and that's Jenna Jones from New Jersey's Economic Development Authority, and she's going to fill us in on the next round of grants that are going to be available to cannabis businesses. Following that, I'll introduce our panel, which consists of the committee chairs from the Cannabusiness Association. They've been working diligently, some for multiple years now, in giving feedback to the CRC and the legislators on our laws and regulations, what's working and what's not. And they've got a special effort going on right now because we're heading into a lame duck session, and we're hoping to see some cannabis program changes moved through then rapidly. But let's start with Jenna. Thanks for being here tonight, and I'll hand the microphone to you.
Do I just sit, or am I good sitting, or?
You can sit if you want, or you can stand.
All right. So thank you so much for inviting me. My name's Jenna Jones. I am a Senior Community Development Officer at EDA and the Principal Architect for the cannabis programs for EDA. So I'll just start with, our CEO thought that it was important to help cannabis businesses financially. Obviously, I think everybody in this room knows that it's very, very difficult to get funding. There's a lot of predatory lending, different things like that. So we started in, I think, 2022, just doing some listening sessions, really doing a lot of research on the industry and how we could help. And our CEO decided that we wanted to do some big grants to help people get over the finish line. So we developed two grant programs. One was joint ventures. It launched in April 2023. It was a $250,000 grant. $100,000 was given out when you had site control and municipal approval. The second $150,000 was given out when our grantees opened. We had 46 grantees. I think it was like 9.2 million that we had dispersed, and we have probably like 3 million left. So we have, I think, 13 grantees that aren't open yet. Then we had a second program that we launched to target a different population, people who were just starting. And who really needed some assistance in getting into the cannabis industry. That was a $150,000 grant. We had 4 disbursements of $37,500 each. But the really cool thing is that we had technical assistance, and we had a great technical assistance program done by Oaksterdam. They're nationally recognized. And what our intention was is to be able to provide people with funding so that they could see whether or not this business was worth it or not. I'm sure everybody knows that, you can dump a ton of money into this and then, it not necessarily be worth it. Um, you have to, you don't even get to open, different things like that. So we did our technical assistance program. It helped with, how to start your business, different like cultivation techniques, just everything from like A to Z. And so we have about 15 businesses that have opened from that program. That program launched in December 2023. So our intention with those programs was to help businesses before they opened. So we're launching a new program called the Cannabis Business Development Grant, and I'll leave some flyers here. So basically, what we have kind of read in the market now is that we need to help businesses stay open and help them with their costs that they have of opening. So this is a $75,000 reimbursement grant. It's going to be launching probably early November, but on the flyer you can go to, we have a cannabis email, cannabis@njeda.gov. You can sign up for updates and it'll update you. We hold webinars before the application opens. This is an application that it's first come, first serve. So when you apply, if you have a complete application, that means you filled out everything perfectly. The first, I think it's probably going to be 60 to 70 businesses who do that will get the grant. It's a reimbursement grant, so you'll have to upload your receipts and your bank statements, different things like that. And I'm sure, you can get to 75,000 rather quickly. And we're gonna, we're gonna hold a webinar. The date is to be announced. It's really important to attend that webinar because we have very specific things that you need to upload and very specific ways to upload it. And again, your application has to be what we call complete. So that means that it has to be perfect. And that will bump you to the top of the line. If it's not perfect, we do give you a chance to what is called cure and send in the proper documents, but you're going to get bumped to the bottom of the queue. So that's it. Well, that's our grant program. We also have a loan program for cultivators and manufacturers and testing labs. It's up to $1 million for working capital and fixed assets. Collateral is required. It is a regular loan. I think the interest rate is below 10%, but it's basically a regular EDA loan that EDA would give out to any business who was, who needed development money. So that is coming down the pipe. That is probably going to be, definitely going to be next year. Likely in January, but if you have questions about that, you can go ahead and email the cannabis email here. Somebody will get back to you. I'm a grants person, so I don't know a lot about loans. So there's obviously very specific requirements. So if you have any questions about that, you can go ahead and email this address, and I can connect you. We'll connect you with the loan people. So I think that's it.
Why don't you open up to questions? Rather than holding your questions, let's take questions now.
Does anyone have any questions? And please, all the consultants and other ancillary businesses here, please tell your clients. Obviously, if you got a previous grant for joint ventures or seed equity, you're not eligible because you already got your money. So.
Do you guys currently have the checklist for the reimbursement grant on the website so you can already see all the requirements?
We do not have it yet, but we will have it before the webinar.
So they should send that email to get
Yes, but like the basic requirements are going to be, you need to have a tax clearance certificate. So that's something that you can do early. You want to email the Department of Treasury, make sure that you don't have any back taxes. Go ahead and get that certificate. It's good for 6 months. You don't want to do it at the last minute because they'll tell you, 3 to 5 days to print it out. So you can do that now. It's basically like business formation documents. You're going to have to upload your receipts. So for rent, for example, you'd upload your lease and then you'd upload the canceled checks. It's a little bit different. You don't just upload your receipts. You upload the receipts with the bank statement so we can show that so that we can see the money came out of the account. You have to have it's only for businesses that are open. So you have to have your annual license, your digital card. And I think that's about it. So, alternative treatment centers are not allowed to apply. MSOs are not allowed to apply. But if you're an alternative treatment center and you have your recreational license, you can apply.
I have two questions. Hi, it's Carl Frederick from Clark Hill, and thank you so much to our friends at the EDA for joining us on relatively late notice. First question is, will these grants fund consumption lounges?
So no, we won't fund consumption lounges, but my understanding is a consumption lounge has to be attached to a retailer, so you can apply through that.
Okay. And then the good news is we seem to have a relatively streamlined application process. But for grants, what are the post-issuance, the compliance? Once the money goes out the door, what do our people have to do?
Very
to
good
comply?
question. So basically, the compliance period, this grant's going to be so much easier. Our last grants were like forward-looking grants. This is a straight reimbursable grant. So at the time of application, you'll just upload your receipts. We'll send you a check. There's a 24-month compliance period, which just means that you have to keep your license. And I don't think you can open another dispensary outside of the state of New Jersey for the 24 months. But it's pretty basic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's just for dispensaries?
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's dispensaries, cultivators, manufacturers, and testing labs can apply for that. The loan is just for cultivators and manufacturers.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks. Those people who are outside could come in and ask questions too. Okay. Next up, we're going to hear from the chair people for each of our committees. As vice president of the organization, I've been working with the committees since Sarah, where's Sarah, stepped up and said, there she is, and said, we want to form a testing committee. Can we be a part of the association? And that started us down a path where we have built some really strong connections with the CRC through these committees. We have regular meetings with them and take forward suggestions and appeals for change. And we're going to be talking about a lot of them tonight. I think that the order in which we're going to go is we're going to begin with manufacturing, and then we're going to go to retail, and then we're going to go to cultivation, and then we're going to wrap up with testing. All right? And I'm going to ask that you hold questions to the end, but please ask questions. We're here to fill you in on what your membership dollars are going to, what we've been doing, and also to tell you about initiatives that are coming up. So some of the things that we're talking about are things that we have already requested, already talked to the CRC about, and others are new issues that we're raising now. So with that, Martha Figaro. I'm terrible. Figaro, like the song, Figaro. Yeah. All right. Has been a co-chair of our manufacturing committee. Just this year, we established this one. But she began working with me on position papers a couple of years ago, and was very much partially responsible for the new regulations that allow us to make things that look like food and beverages, the things that taste good. And she's busy making those things too. So, independently, yes. So come on up.
Thanks. Right here, Mike, in the corner?
Yeah, wherever you like.
Okay. All right. Hey, guys. My name is Monte Figueroa, Class 2 manufacturer, independent as Cannabusiness. most notably known for the brand called Butter Cake. And like Marianne said, I co-chair the manufacturing committee alongside a lovely woman named Erin Gore. And all of us combined have been able to do some pretty remarkable stuff. Initially, like Marianne was saying, in the beginning, it was just me and her, and I essentially became a ghostwriter, and Marianne used her brain and the NJCBA powers, and here we are today with brownies and really, really delicious product in the market. So that's just something that the NJCBA was able to do before I put my face out there and before I even became operational. So I found it super helpful. As the chair or co-chair as the manufacturing committee, we want to talk about a lot of things that impact the business, but most importantly, a couple of things we want to talk about is internal and product sampling. So right now, the way things are is that, I'm going to use myself as an example. I make brownies. I can't try my own products. I can't taste test them. I can't R&D them. I can't sample them to dispensaries. I can't do any of those things. And so with that, it means no in-house R&D, no trade education, no retailer demos, none of that. So part of our reform is that we are going to be asking for tracked and internal product development samples to be accessible through Metric. So this policy would be able to unlock better innovation. It would improve quality control because we literally need to be able to taste what we're doing. And it would keep the brands competitive with other national players because honestly, in other states where people are producing, they can try what the heck they're making before they put it out there. The next thing we want to get into, and this is something I'm actually really passionate about, is single serve 100 milligram products. And I'm not talking about liquids and syrups and stuff like that. I'm talking about the actual brownies and the cookies. I really think that the 10 milligram serving cap, it makes sense for gummies, but it doesn't necessarily make sense for everything else. You can't score a cookie or a blondie into exactly 10 milligrams. It can't be trusted. The integrity kind of goes out the way, and at the end of the day, it impacts the consumers. So I think we should propose having clearly labeled single serve 100 milligram baked goods for the adult use market. In my opinion, it's safer, it's simpler, and more honest for the consumer. Other states also have this in action, so we wouldn't be the first, which means it's proven that it's perfectly fine to do. A single sealed 100 milligram brownie with clear warnings is way more responsible than crumbling a bunch of multi-dose God knows what into a bag and letting people guess what they might be consuming. So let's be so for real and push that one forward. The next one we'd want to talk about is medical access and hospitality for Class 2 manufacturers. Right now, the medical market, they're kind of lacking in what we can offer patients. And so we believe that it is really important that Class 2 manufacturers get an endorsement to be able to manufacture not only for the adult use, but also for the medical market during supply shortages and things of that nature. We'd also like to be able to host non-infused food or drink educational events, which I like to call hospitality reform, but also adds to the product reform I talked about earlier. SEAF, the social equity excise fee. Everybody's paying into it, but I don't know about y'all. I don't know where it's going. So the recommendation is simple. Get the SEAF money out of the account and into the hands of licensees that need it to keep their businesses afloat. Let's get it for grants. Let's get it for rent relief, packaging credits, and tangible help. Lastly, home grow. I know that home grow is technically not a manufacturing issue, but it is a community issue. And as somebody in this community, I highly support regulated cultivation for patients and responsible adults in this state. Home grow, it builds trust, not just for patients, but also between us as people that get to produce, people that get to cultivate, people that get to sell. It really brings the entire supply chain together. Every time a patient gets to grow legally instead of secretly, I believe the system becomes stronger and not weaker. So it's about time New Jersey gets caught up because we're the only ones out here that can't grow a plant. So what I need y'all to do is continue to support the NJCBA. If you are a Class 2 manufacturer in the room, please join us because we're doing some serious work. All of your thoughts are very important to us. So like I said, my name is Mata Figueroa. Butter Cake is awesome, and we write awesome regulation as a part of NJCBA. Thank you for your support.
Okay. And we have Spencer Belts is up next. Spencer is also a board member now of the Cannabusiness Association. And that's actually, it's one of the things that has been most productive for us, has been forming these committees and seeing who the leaders are in the organization. Sarah, who formed our laboratory testing committee, is also now a board member. So we welcome, Spencer is the chair of our retail and marketing committee. So there's some overlap between all of these. We're facing in different areas some of the same problems, but he'll talk about the initiatives that he's pursuing.
All right, well, thank you guys. Like Marianne said, my name is Spencer Bells. I'm the chairperson of the Retail and Marketing Committee for the CBA. For the next 2.5 hours, I'm going to walk you through everything that we've been working on. But so I've been involved with the CBA for a little over the last year as the chairperson, and it's been really, really exciting. It's also incredibly difficult. There are almost 280 retailers throughout the entire state of New Jersey. As you know, New Jersey is the most densely populated state. There's so many little pockets of communities that look like an entire different world, from where I'm from down by the beach to where people outside of Philly, outside of New York City. So what we experience as retailers is a very, very different thing across the board. In some ways, that makes it really tough for us to really understand what type of growth needs to be experienced, from the legislative, statute, and from the regulatory and compliance side for retailers. But at the same time, we all deal with so many of the same issues because of that basic standard that is set. So a big thing that we've been focusing on is really trying to understand where retail is at in the market. Not only are we still in our infancy, I would say 99% of the retailers that are open in the state have only been, operating for the last year and a half, but there's new operators coming in constantly. One of the biggest struggles that we see for retailers is the lack of municipalities where you can come in and operate within as a new retailer. For us, there's so many different approaches and there's so many different variables that go into being a retail operator, whether you're coming in or you're currently open and operating. So we've really started to form the committee into two main areas of focus. Number one is taking a look at our individual struggles, what we're dealing with, and how we can make sure that all of the nuances for retailers really gets focus. But then we're taking a look at what are the broader problems that we are all experiencing, no matter where you are and what your business model is. For all retailers, one of the things that some of us have struggled with and some have received fines and violations for is open consumption. This is something that is a part of the community and the culture of cannabis, whether regulated or, well before that. The community behind cannabis is a true keystone of what we do. What recommendations that we've already sent out to the commission is allowing better guidance, better clarity, and better parameters on how licensed operators can hold open consumption events. This is something that we all like to do. This is something that we all currently do. We need to have more clarity on how to do it properly. And this isn't just a retail issue either. For our cultivators and manufacturers, they're the ones producing these products. They want to be able to be part of this community, part of these experiences, and explore everything hands-on. So that's a recommendation that we sent back in April after there was a dispensary that unfortunately got a violation in the state of New Jersey for holding an event like this. We really understood the immediate need of focusing on these issues, giving us the opportunity to grow and expand and immerse ourselves, but to do it in a compliant and regulated way. None of us want to go against the laws or the rules. None of us want to receive violations or fines, but there's certain things that we need further definition on to understand how we can do it properly. We want to work with the CRC, and we need the CRC to work with us. So that was the first recommendation as a committee, that we were able to all get on the same page, because again, it's something that impacts all of us and creates opportunity for all of us at the same time. The other thing that is a broad sweeping change that we need to see, and this again, started with the retail committee, but is incredibly important to the entire supply chain, are the badging regulations. Right now, every single employee is required to go through a federal background check for each operator that they want to work at. No matter how long they've been in the industry, no matter how many times they've been badged, no matter how many times they've passed that background check, it is required for every single operation that you want to go and work for. there are, you also need to have a unique and individual badge for every single license that you work for. We understand when you're starting something new, like regulated cannabis, that you need to be conservative, you need to be careful, you have to make sure that there's a certain level of oversight to protect everybody and anybody involved, whether the individual, the operators, or the state entities themselves. But 3.5 years in, we have experienced no major issues with the badging process. If anything, we have all experienced major issues with it. It is expensive, paying $70 to go get every background check, if not more. You have to spend $25 every time that you're going to get a CRC badge and renew it, and it creates an unnecessary delay in the badging process. We had provisional badging that allowed you to wait 14 days and submit a notarized attestation for provisional badge. That was unfortunately removed. The CRC... 100%. There's so many barriers that this creates instead of making this more accessible for all of us. In every other sector, industry, market, it is up to the individual, licensed operation to do their due diligence on the employees that they bring in. Just because somebody has some type of conviction, it's up to the, the individual operator to choose if that's disqualifying or not. We really, our main focus on this one is being able to limit these barriers of entry, allowing badges to be transferable through all operators of one single license type, a single retail badge, manufacturing, cultivation, or licensing, to make it easier and faster to transition. We need to either remove the federal background check or, some of the heavier badging restrictions. We're recommending only needing one single background check to be able to enter into the market. At that point, it's up to the individual entities to make decisions on themselves, but you should be able to continue to work from business to business without getting a new background check every single time. So being able to lower that background check barrier, being able to make that a transitionary license, and making this a more accessible market is only going to benefit the individual employees, the operators, and the commission themselves, who have to allocate how much labor and time to do all of these approvals. But then, that's some of our more broader approaches or initiatives. When we're looking at individual things, something that we're working on right now is creating a special events permit. We saw in the state of California that you can safely, legally, and compliantly allow retailers to sell product off-site at predetermined, pre-approved private properties. They do it at festivals in California. They do it at smaller events out there. And, as we've seen, because otherwise we would all know and hear, without any major issue. In a state like Jersey, where there's an oversaturation geographically of retailers, we need to create opportunities where they can expand outside of those four walls. We allow liquor and beer and wine to sell off sites. It is a normal part of our everyday fabric of society. Cannabis should be no different. It creates more accessibility. It further immerses what we do into the general community, and it gives the general community an opportunity to immerse in what we do as well. It's an education and advocacy opportunity that we need to bring into this market. Jersey is a very communally driven state, and we need to find ways to take cannabis and push it further into that and open our doors broader to allow people to step inside to what we're doing. And then, like I had mentioned, there's some more nuanced problems that we're experiencing within the state. I'm fortunate that I work for one of the 3 open consumption lounges in the state of New Jersey. And prior to even applying for our license, we knew that there were going to be a slew of problems that we were going to run into through the application, through opening the doors, and through operations. We are, putting together an entire reform package, as Marianne was mentioning, and one of the things we're going to focus on is lounges and a lot of the issues that we experience. Main thing, we need to be permitted to sell prepackaged food and drink. Not only is this a safety concern because you have people consuming an intoxicating substance in our business, on our property, and we need to make sure that we offer that type of support for them, but it's also an additional revenue stream for us, being able to make money off of something as simple as water bottles and snacks. And then the third part of it is that if opening a consumption lounge is here to create an environment to explore cannabis and to have a safe and regulated space, we need to recognize that that is no longer a part of the dispensary. On paper, through the license it is, but operationally that is traditional hospitality. Bars are non-existent without food. They make their money from all of the drinks, but the people stay because of the food. I make all of my money from the cannabis products. I need the food there to keep people there and to be able to replicate a similar business model. If we are trying to immerse cannabis into the real world by regulating this and keeping it legal, we have to look at all of the spider webs that come out from it, look at all the tangible aspects, and make sure that we're building this to be something sustainable, something safe, and something that's going to have a positive impact on society, not a negative one. If somebody's in my lounge and they overconsumed, or they, are just, they have asthma, they're coughing, they need water, legally, I am not allowed to provide that person water in my consumption lounge. That is unacceptable. Water is a basic human right. Water is something that should be a part of my business model to further support those, to further support myself, and to allow us to make a stronger ecosystem for everything that we're doing. But, retail is, in certain ways, the most diverse and dynamic aspect of cannabis. Yes, on the product side, there's so much room to explore from the different form factors, product categories, the branding, the methods of consumption, the science behind all of it, but that is something that is prepackaged by the time it hits our dispensary. But what we do operationally is incredibly vast. If you are a licensed operator, a retail operator in New Jersey, we need you to come join the CBA and work with us to strengthen everything that we're trying to do and strengthen the regulatory and compliance landscape to make this a better state market for all of us collectively. If you come on, you can join the retail committee, you can use your voice to not only bring your own issues and concerns to the table, but you can also help build a case to support the issues that affect all of us collectively. When we can put ourselves together that way, we have the people, we have the power, we have the voice to be able to take advantage of, bringing these changes. As Martha was saying, she wouldn't be here legally if it wasn't for the work and the time that she put into that. She didn't get paid for it, but it's something that we all have to make that individual and collective sacrifice for the greater good of our market. And the retailers, there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are the rest of the supply chain license-wise. So if we need change, we have to do it collectively. So please feel free to reach out to me. Let's get you onboarded, get you into the committee, and continue to work to make Jersey the strongest market on the East Coast, as we all believe it currently is. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Okay, so next I'm going to introduce Shergo Alkalani. Shergo is a board member, and you didn't come in 2017, did you? A little bit later?
I think I came in as a grassroots at the end of 2017.
Okay, so he's been working with the association for a long time. He is currently building out a cultivation facility after a lot of years of planning. He's been able to give that a start. And so he's taken the role of chair of our cultivation committee. Now, that's a committee that is looking for more members. The thing about our committees is they really need to be seated with people who are at kind of different points of business development, because they're hitting different problems in the regulations, and we need to be able to surface them. So Shergo's just started this committee this year, and if we have cultivators here who have issues that they want raised, they should see Shergo, they should join the committee. And so I'll turn it over to you, and you can talk about the issues you're dealing with.
Well, thank you. Like you alluded to, every group has their own different set of issues, and one of the issues you're finding with cultivators is that there's 55, I believe. I checked the website, the CRC website yesterday. It was about 55 licenses that are in operation, which I think might be disproportionate to the other license classes to be able to support as many dispensaries and manufacturers as are out there. But within our committee, we have 5 active members. 2 are in operations, 3 are like me, and 2 others are under construction. And it's been nice to have a committee where you can ask the people that are a few months ahead of you, what were your issues, and give me some of your feedback so I know how to handle the issues I'm going to have in the near future. So our committee's been focused on, in the short term, something that the CRC could do tomorrow, which is data transparency. With 55 in operation and 300 plus awardees being issued in some point of a standard annual license, obviously there's a big ratio that aren't converting and getting open. And we feel that data transparency is part of the issue that could just be resolved tomorrow. The CRC could publish some of this information, and the information specific I'm talking about is the size of the market. When the CRC does a good job and issues a bunch of licenses, an average investor or lender looking to invest or lend on a startup operation, excuse me, will automatically go to the state website and find that there are several hundred licenses. Seems like almost one cultivator per open dispensary, if you want to look at it that way. And it really discourages a lot of capital, and that's not really the true landscape of what's happening in the state. I think there's a tremendous demand for more product, and especially a variety of product. So that's a short-term issue. And I'd call it an almost immediate issue just by the will of the CRC. So we're pushing for that, and I think you'll hear a lot more about it from the lab committee as well. A short-term issue that's achievable also through regulation are sampling issues that you've heard from Martha's committee, that you can make something and not test it and have to consciously look somebody in the eye and say, buy a ton of this product from us, I promise you, I think it's good. I think that's logical to be able to sample what you're putting out. I think it makes it really difficult to pheno hunt, to figure out what you really like, to get a diverse group of your people in your own company to be able to give you immediate feedback. It's hard to place a value on it. It's almost impossible to think that that's not what's happening already. Finally, on a long-term basis, some of the issues that we're tackling are really things that are coming back to us from the other committees. Issues that you're seeing with our product being displayed at an open consumption event, maybe an off-site consumption event, really helps to push our product through avenues that aren't really available today. A product we put out is solely sellable by the bud tender. That's like really our only point of marketing other than the packaging itself. So to be able to improve upon that and spread the word beyond that really benefits us directly. So aside from many other operational issues, that's kind of the summary of the three immediate, short-term, and longer-term goals that we look to accomplish.
Thank you. Okay. Now, the Laboratory Testing Committee, I need to say a few words, has been a very active committee, and they have put so much effort into what they've done. I'm very, very proud of the work that they've accomplished. Kristen's been involved and was co-chair with Sarah from the beginning, and now Clarissa Miller is co-chair for the committee, and they continue to meet monthly and turn out very detailed, very good materials to try to guide the CRC. One of the areas that they're seeing some hope is there's never been a technical enough person at the CRC to really communicate about testing issues. They've hired someone. And so that's a very good start towards having a governance program. If you've been operating in this market for a while, you've seen draft regulations come in, you've seen them pulled back. There's a lot of contention around what's done in testing, and it affects everybody. So the work that this committee is doing is very important to us. And again, if you've got issues around testing, you should feed them in. And if you've got qualifications around testing, actual background, scientific knowledge, join them, because they are open to all people who have critical information about how testing should be done. So with that, I'll turn it over and let Kristen talk.
Okay. I think I'm going to stay seated. All right. My name is Kristen Godey. I am the chair of the Laboratory Testing Committee under the NJCBA. We focus on everything related to testing, which is really everything in the supply chain. Testing laboratories in general are, we're not really directly involved in the supply chain. We're that final check before something goes to a dispensary. So we work directly a lot with cultivators and manufacturers before it hits the retail shelves. And I think one thing that offers insight as a testing laboratory is that we see all the issues before anyone else. We're always there for that first harvest batch, the first production batch of a new product type, how it's tested and everything like that. So I have everything from, the metric nuances back 2 years ago when they started implementing that to just routine everyday testing. In the laboratory testing committee under the NJCBA, we really focus on pushing the CRC to establish guidance specific to New Jersey that helps cultivators, manufacturers, retailers, as well as laboratories be able to help our clients meet the regulations. One thing that we really have focused on in the past, I don't know, what was it, 2 or 3 years, I think, we continually update this document regarding strengthening laboratory governance and oversight. So you may have heard recently at a CRC meeting, Chris Riggs went on the record discussing inflated THCA potency results and the interesting yeast and mold results where mold doesn't know how to grow over 9,999 CFU per gram because the limit's 100,000, right? So these are all issues that aren't just New Jersey specific. They're in the market in every state that operates an adult use market that involves testing. There are things that can be done, though, to lessen the effects. Really governing the laboratories, making sure that someone with scientific expertise, which I really give credit to the CRC over the last couple of months for bringing on a scientist, first one since the establishment of the CRC. So we're working through that, which is great because she can talk to laboratories on a different level and help us help the market and make sure that the data that is coming out of laboratories is accurate. Having that full-time oversight over the data that's being produced is critical for not only consumer health and safety, but trust in the market in general. The one thing that a lot of regulators and legislators will harp on in the cannabis industry, like buy legal, it's safe, it's tested, it's safe. Those aren't synonymous if it's not when you don't have any oversight over the laboratories that are performing the testing. So making sure that the data coming out is accurate, that there are no contaminants that are affecting the market, which would also affect brand recalls. And you don't want to be the first dispensary with a huge recall, or your first product batch to the market gets recalled, and then all eyes are on you. It could destroy a brand. So really trying to play that role of like a scientific liaison with the regulators, explaining the intricacies of the cannabis market in general, including just like cannabis plant material in general, like testing cannabis matrix versus other types of food testing or pharmaceutical testing and things like that. Whenever you're working with a new type of material, there are new methods that need to be developed, and you need to make sure that those methods are accurate. So having that higher level of oversight is critical. So I'm really glad the CRC listened to our first point of our, I think, 10-point program regarding laboratory governance by hiring a scientific expert, and we hope to see them also bring on proficiency testing, round-robin testing, and unannounced audits and things like that to help strengthen the reliability of the data that you as a cultivator or manufacturer or retailer put out. Beyond that, like overarching, like let's make sure that the data is accurate. We also, deal with a lot of the same issues that other license types deal with, like uniform guidance within the CRC. Like how many times have you been talking to someone who is a fellow manufacturer or cultivator and their investigator is telling them a completely different thing? There are about, I think, 7 licensed testing labs in the state, and we all have different CRC investigators. So we all get different guidance given to us. And I think one thing that is really critical that we really push the CRC to do is to make sure that investigators are trained by license class, that they understand the facilities that they're going into, that they can properly audit them, and that they establish a explicit uniform guidance between each license type, because it can set you up at a disadvantage. For example, with testing laboratories, we have 3 of the 4 or 5 most operational laboratories in the state on the committee, and we all have different guidance related to stability testing, where someone's like, oh, you don't have to do it at all. To others, it's every batch, every lot. And that puts you at a great market disadvantage when you're trying to, as a third party, say, okay, well, this is what my investigator is telling me. Well, you can go across the street and they're not saying that. So establishing that uniform guidance, and then also working with the manufacturing cultivation committee for those specific issues regarding like data transparency, making sure that metric data gets out into the open regarding not just like operational licenses, like different types of numbers of products, anonymized data, things like that, but the testing data in general, as you can see from the announcement from the CRC through Chris Riggs, like that data is telling. You can see these cliffs, these action limits, and by having more eyes on it, you're able to better identify where to look, right? And then also working with the manufacturing committee and cultivation committee on stability testing, like what makes sense? Like it doesn't make sense to test every batch or lot. No one is looking at that data. The CRC is not looking at it. What makes sense for a stability program? Make sure that your packaging is verified for the type of material that you're putting in it, that your actual formulation is verified over time, and doing a more technical, in-depth study on your specific product versus testing every batch or lot just to get an extra 6-month expiration date on that specific batch or lot, and then you have to redo it for the next batch that you made 2 days later. It doesn't make any sense, and we just want to make sure that we're being able to provide that scientific expertise to the CRC. So really, like anyone involved, we have people on our committee with backgrounds in GMP and pharmaceutical and things like that outside of the cannabis industry that are not associated with testing laboratories that come in as our scientific experts to help assist, and let's see what they're doing under FDA, USP, and try to align that with cannabis specific. Some other like overarching issues that I think anyone honestly involved in cannabis industry should care about. We wouldn't be here without it. Medical patient rights. Making sure that the things that were promised years ago are implemented. Getting institutional caregivers, institutional access. Medical home grow in general. Those are things that, as an NJCBA committee and also the larger organization, you can help be a part of pushing some of these things forward and trying to get some change, especially now as we enter lame duck. It is well past time for something as simple as medical home grow to go through. I know I went through a lot there, so I'm going to give it back over to Marianne if she has any questions and take it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Now I want to talk to the audience and say we're opening this up to questions. Come on up. I've got a microphone. They'll start. Yay. All right.
They can take that, and I can give him this.
Okay. Keep this back for people.
You can just talk to that. You're good to go.
I was wondering what.
Wait. Who are you? What class? What you got going on?
Okay.
What's your major?
What's your sign?
Yes. I am Max, founder of Cannabis Wise Guys. I do cultivation advising, and also I'm trying to help on the policy side of things, specifically currently down in Virginia. But I was just at an event a couple days ago, and was handed tested flower that was 43%.
Yeah.
And I made a LinkedIn post about it, and then people got upset, like trying to defend that this is the right thing to be doing. And I would really be curious what you have to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, THCA inflation has been a thing since testing's been a thing, right? The higher the THC content, the higher the sell price. And I think it's it goes all the way back to like consumer education. We need to make more of an effort in dispensaries, at retailers, engaging with the public and teaching people how to smoke. And it's not about percentages. They think the higher percentage, more bang for their buck, but it's like, all right, do you want to like take a shot of vodka or do you want to drink a craft beer? Like good for different occasions. But as we all know also, like you have different effects depending on the actual cultivar of the cannabis. And really percentages mean nothing as to how high you're going to get or anything like that. So I mean, it's a symptom of this need to sell by percentage because that's a number that they can go off of. And once we move past that and we can get into like if we could do consumption events where people can smell the weed, like that's how you buy weed. You can't buy weed like that right now. But if you could, people would, and they're not going to be looking at that number anymore. They're going to be smelling it and looking at it and then knowing what they want to buy based off of that information. You know, testing plays an important role, but it's not the end all be all for quality. We're just telling you a percentage. I mean, you can go probably down the street and somewhere in Trenton and get some THCA hemp rolled in THCA isolate, and it's going to test at 45%. But is that good? Like, it's probably not that tasty.
Have you guys, can I have a follow-up question? Have you guys found a botanical limit that you guys have found, like what we think the plant actually is capable of producing?
Well, so I know that there's like some definitely debate over that, and then we have to consider dry weight percent versus non-dry weight percent. I think like total like combined cannabinoids and terpenes together maybe max out around 40 dry weight. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about joining the cultivation committee.
Excellent. Okay. Another question.
Anyone?
All right, thank you. Jenna has a question.
So this is for retail. We are seeing some of our seed equity grantees who are still looking for site control and municipal approval, and some of our grantees that have already opened. Since there's no license limit in any of the municipalities and they can choose how many licenses they want, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the state of kind of that market in terms of like the retail market and oversaturation and what you expect to see over the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, the simplest answer, it's a nightmare right now. We've seen in many, many other states that, you know, Jersey is a home rule state. We leave a lot of things up to the individual municipality to set their own guidance and parameters on what they want to allow and how they want to allow it. In a state like this, really not much you can do with that. That's how it's been for 250 years. But, you know, what we've seen is similar to other states where only about 28 to 32% of the municipalities have opted in to allow for retail operations. Many others have allowed other aspects of the supply chain. And all that's done is really force the initial wave of dispensaries to be heavily concentrated into smaller pockets throughout the state. Yeah?
New Jersey has over 500 municipalities.
564.
30% have opted in to allow cannabis.
Yeah, last time I did the math, it was 28%. There are some coming online, you know, like you probably get like one every other 3 months or so. But we are experiencing the progress. But, you know, the way that it really launched was you had these smaller pockets. You got places like, you know, Atlantic City and Atlantic County. You have the Cherry Hill area. You have the Trenton and Princeton, Jersey City. But then right outside of that, you've got like the Patterson, you know, other group. Then you have the Somerset area, and everybody bum rushed to these towns because they allowed it, and they were the initial wave. And we all kept saying, okay, but once the neighboring towns see how well they're doing, they'll allow it, which in some ways has really happened. All that has done is just allow those dispensaries to bleed out a little bit further, but it just is piling on to that already concentrated area with additional like rings or waves happening around it. So we are seeing some growth happening, but unfortunately all it's doing is just spreading out further of these initial hubs that have existed. It is something that the CRC doesn't have control over in certain ways. But it's also an issue that, you know, it's part of the reason why people like us, the NJCBA, is here. We talk with towns. We try to educate them. We try to help them understand the value of bringing these dispensaries into your state. We're always hesitant to compare cannabis to alcohol because in so many ways we're entirely different and we shouldn't use that as a model to copy off of. But when we look at certain models like allowing a certain number of licenses per capita, that allows the municipalities to still have control over what they want to allow and how they want to allow it, but it's relative to the needs of that town. You know, right now you have towns that opt in that are pulling so much business from surrounding areas, which is beneficial to that town. But that's a massive missed opportunity for those surrounding areas. But those surrounding areas look at it and go, well, you've got 17 dispensaries all within 20 minutes. Why do we need to open up? And, the scales continue to grow, but they continue to be tilted. If I could tell you what's going to happen over the last 1 to 2 years, I'd be making much more money than I am now. We really don't know what to expect. We can look at other states like California who haven't learned the lesson or haven't found ways to adjust the regulatory landscape to make sure that there's better division, that there's better balance. But there are great initiatives that have been talked about throughout the state of New Jersey, from organizations like ours, from the Senate and the Assembly, from the Commission, about not allowing towns to deny medical operators in town, because that's no different than allowing another CVS pharmacy. They're providing medicine to the people. That medicine is legal. Why would we restrict somebody like, CVS from opening a pharmacy? Why would we restrict a, licensed medical ATC from being able to open? That's going to expand accessibility in a healthy and, lower barrier way. Will they allow that to happen with recreational? I would give, less than 1% chance of seeing something like that happen, but we really don't know what to expect. We hope that the CRC and, a lot of their staff continue to reach out to these municipalities, try to educate them, try to work with them to see the light, see the potential, and see the value that this brings to the overall cannabis market. We as the NJCBA play a role with that. We have an event after the League of Municipalities in Atlantic City where we are inviting as many, legislators and as many government employees to come to an operating dispensary to see what it's like, to get a feel for it, to understand what we do on a daily basis. Thankfully, the dispensary that we're hosting it at also has a consumption lounge, so they can really get the full feel for what we have to offer as cannabis operators. Because we need to approach this from different ways, but it really does come down to the licensed operators playing a large role in this too. They need to do the groundwork to go and prove to these municipalities that they deserve to be there, that it's of benefit to their town, and what they're going to do to specifically impact their town, not just, hey, you've got real estate, we want to be here, let's make it work. This is a relationship. You have to work with that municipality and help to build something greater. Whether or not they're going to be receptive to that, who knows? Should that be the responsibility of the operator? Absolutely not. We should have a much more balanced playing field for new businesses to come online. But it is the reality of where we're at, and we all have the responsibility of playing an active role in shaping this into something better. So if we can combat this from the top down while fighting it from the bottom up, we'll hopefully meet somewhere in the middle and start to get a better scope, because I can't personally name any state that has been in a similar situation and has found a way to logistically even things out. So I don't know where we go from here, but at the end of the day, we are all responsible as being parts of this industry to play an active role in shaping this in a better direction.
Can I answer that from the manufacturer's perspective? Okay, so being in the middle of the supply chain, having way too many retailers is actually a nightmare from a manufacturer's perspective. You would think it'd be a dream come true, but in reality, what happens when you put dispensaries right across the street from each other is that they come to me as a manufacturer and they're like, hey, I'm gonna buy your $10 product, but I'm gonna sell it out in the streets for $7, and then the guy across the street from me is gonna sell it for $5, and then I'm gonna drop my price down to $3, and the next thing you know, the consumer thinks that my gourmet products are worth $3. In a year, I'll be out of business. So it's really, really, really important that the state figures out a way to siphon out how these dispensaries are opening. They need to figure out a way to speak to the municipalities. Just like Spencer said, yes, it is a home rule state, but also we need some common sense. And common sense says we should not have dispensaries on top of each other, because when they get this grant money and they finally do get open, they can't even be successful and stay open because they're too busy racing to the bottom using the middleman as collateral. So that's my 2 cents on that. Less dispensaries, please.
Honestly, we could do an entire event just on that topic, because Martha is absolutely correct about how it creates an unhealthy level of competition in the state. It has driven New Jersey to be a heavily discounted dispensary model, which not only limits their overall profit margins, it creates a unstable type of competition, and then it also devalues the brands at the same time, because they're being used as the collateral, as the pawns on that chessboard to fight each other. Instead, when Martha launches her products on the market, it's because she has been doing this forever. She, has done proper training to create products like this, and she uses high quality ingredients and standard operating procedures to make sure that her product maintains at a certain level of standard. As soon as that product is sold and is out of her hands, she no longer controls that narrative. And that completely puts her at risk on being able to build the right brand, the right identity, the right mission, and the right retail partners that want to help uplift and elevate her instead of just using her as leverage to beat out the person across the street. And if we continue to go down this path, there are countless states, probably double digits, that have gone down the retail discount model, and they have seen massive closures. They have seen people lose their entire livelihoods, jobs lost, and then at that point, that's less retail operators for the rest of the supply chain to be able to work with. So if we're not careful about paying attention to the macro level of what we're doing and the impact that this dispensary saturation has, all it's going to do is destabilize the entire supply chain top to bottom, because you're relying on your retailers as that central hub to connect the product with the consumer. If you destabilize that, that is going to destabilize everything, including labs. If labs don't have cultivators and manufacturers to work with, they're going to go out of business as well. So if we're not actively working to create solutions, because I don't think that there's one singular solution, but creating solutions to this problem, we're going to destabilize the entire market. We're going to end up like somewhere like, California, that also only has, I think they're maybe 32%, but their state is 10 times the size and 10 times the population as us. We're going to end up similar to them. And we really, really have to learn from other people's mistakes to make sure that people like myself and, the rest of the committee chair people here are able to successfully run their businesses. I mean, Shergo isn't even open yet, and he's coming into an already rocky market. We need to make sure that he has a healthy, fair fighting chance to be able to launch his business and not have to come in and play party politics right out the gate. It's not going to benefit anybody.
It's important to funnel the financing options to the top of the supply chain before the retailers. When I saw that the first grant was really pointed towards retailers, I was a little disappointed, because people in his position at the top of the supply chain, when it takes them forever to get open and then they're starting from behind, now you're struggling to sell your products. You got to sell them at a higher price because you couldn't pay rent for the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 million months that it took the CRC to give you a piece of paper. So I think that when cultivation and manufacturers have better opportunities for funding, it creates a better environment and a moat, honestly, around the entire supply chain for when retailers are beating each other and fighting each other and failing and falling apart. Yeah, making sure that the state really invests in cultivation and manufacturing is where the security is for the market. It's not in retail. Sorry, Class 5. I love you guys, I really do, but.
But we're nothing without your product.
Can I add something to that? I don't know how. Wanted to agree with everything everyone's saying, but I do think that there is still a need for dispensaries. I think they're very poorly scattered, mostly because obviously our boundaries are lines from outer space you wouldn't know, but there's this high concentration. I keep picking on Atlantic City as having perhaps too many dispensaries. And then my hometown is the 7th densest town in the country, surrounded by numbers 1 through 7 before 1 through 6. And I think we're serviced by maybe 10 dispensaries with a crazy population. Poor ability to go from town to town would take you a half hour. So there's definitely just a disproportionate distribution of them. One of the things, though, is that some dispensaries, if you take a town like Princeton, and if you had the perfect town, but you didn't really have a retail location, I think that's another issue that has to start getting looked at. Historically, it was if you can get open, you can get operational, you can make money, you should be able to succeed. And I think now we're starting to see that maybe that's not the case. I'm thinking of a particular town that is a beautiful town. You could sell anything in this town. I feel like the president. It's the greatest town, but it has a dispensary that is you couldn't sell anything out of it. It used to be a home that was converted to an insurance company's offices, and now it's a dispensary with not a lot of parking spaces. And you see the sales figures, and you couldn't open any business there. So I think that that's something that maybe I don't know how you properly vet that through an institution like the EDA. I know that probably not the resources there to do that, but I know a lender, like a construction lender, would start poking around, and I think there's a story to be said, well, if you're going to open up in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, there's a lot of demand, you should be okay, but if you're going to be number 14 in Atlantic City, that 16, then so that's my perspective on it.
Great question.
Oh,
So it's for retailers, but it involves cultivators and manufacturers. So some of the strategies that we've seen is that you need to have you need to set yourself apart from other retailers. Are there strategies that retailers are using right now to be able to make themselves unique? I had spoken to a manufacturer and he talked about doing like kind of like limited drops, kind of like Nike does with sneakers, to really kind of get people excited and different things like that.
He has not read the regs.
So the answer is yes. Differentiation is essential for retailers. With such limited supply in the market, we don't have an opportunity to really set ourselves apart the way that we want to. So I think that there's three main pillars that you can use to differentiate your dispensary from your neighbor or just from the rest of the state in general. Number one is the environment of the dispensary itself. You want it to be a comfortable space. You want it to be somewhere that is welcome, somewhere that people understand that this isn't just like a shady, hash den with Jimi Hendrix posters and lava lamps. Now, if you go with that decoration, that can be done properly, but you need to do it in a way that people understand that this is a safe and regulated space and you're not a criminal being in there. That can be accomplished through a variety of ways. My dispensary has white marble floors. Others want to go with shag carpets. There's no right or wrong. You just need to understand your market and understand that, whatever you're building in that environment needs to be done with intention. The other thing is your staff. If you're treating your bud tenders like they're just cashiers and they're there simply just to do transactions, you've already failed your entire business model. Nothing else you do matters if your staff are not thoroughly and properly trained. And that is also a little bit relative, again, depending on where you're at and what your customer base is and what products you carry. But you need to make sure that they are incredibly educated on all the individual products. Build relationships with your suppliers so they have a presence in store, working with your team so they understand what is my product, why should you like my product, and how do you sell my product? If a bud tender is viewed as a salesperson, you're also taking the wrong approach. Bud tenders need to be educators. They need to educate on different consumption methods. They need to educate on different brands, different products and form factors, and why one product or one brand may be better or more applicable than the other because, taste is relative. They need to be advocates. They need to take a customer who is the first time ever consuming or the first time in their dispensary and work with them to make sure that they're building that rapport, they're understanding their individual needs, and they're giving them the opportunity to learn and to take value from that employee being there, not just taking the products out of it. If you build that rapport, if you build that relationship and understand that your job as the bud tender is to understand the individual needs in front of you and pair potentially the right product to their needs, while also understanding that it's trial and error. You try one edible, it might not work, another one may. When you make that investment into your customers, they're not going to look at your neighboring dispensaries because it's like that corny line. It's not about what you say to people that they remember, it's how you make them feel. If they walk out of that dispensary feeling taken care of, it doesn't matter what you sold them, how much it cost, or whether it's their first or 100th time shopping there. You need to build that relationship that when they feel comfortable in that environment, they also feel comfortable with the people. Because cannabis is the people. We are all of it. Everything that we do is based on the people. And then the third pillar to that is the product assortment. In a place like Atlantic City, we are heavily, heavily tourist focused, and we are also, for the local community, are very, very low income. Carrying concentrates, which a gram average in the state is still $85, $95, That is not the market for me. Number one, the tourists coming into town are probably not going to have their Puffco on them. They're not going to have a glass rig. They're not going to have the opportunity to be able to consume that product while they're on vacation. And then on your other side, you have your locals who just simply cannot afford that type of product, because not only is the product expensive, but the accessories to consume it are as well. I have 2 options on my menu, or 2 brands of concentrates on my menu. I usually keep 2 to 3 different strains, and that is it, because that is all that I need. But what I do have is a very heavily pre-roll dominated market. During the summer, very heavily disposable vape market, not thread vapes. They want disposables. We have to understand the needs of our customers and the taste, and we need to be able to sell solutions to them. So having the right product assortment that fits the needs of the people walking in the door, it's not that you have to present it in a way where you're selling yourself out and only providing them with what they want. It is still your job as an educator to provide products that are going to expand their horizons, both both longitudinally and latitudinally. But you need to make sure that, for the quality that you're providing, it's going to fit their needs, and vice versa. If they have needs, you need to provide quality to fit those needs. When you have a comfortable environment, you have an educated staff, and you have a menu that offers everything that you need, but in a way that is applicable, in a way that is solution-based, you're going to stand out from your competition. If you only offer 2 out of 3 of those things, you will probably be a successful dispensary. You will be able to bring in a lot of money. You'll be able to beat out a lot of your competition, most likely. But you're never going to get that full triangulation of making sure that your customer doesn't think about another dispensary. I have 1 dispensary directly across the street, half a block up, block and a half. There's another one that's going to open on the other corner. I have some of the most expensive products in the state of New Jersey because I put quality first there. And some customers walk out because they have a limited budget. But when we take that time to educate customers on why we carry those products and why spending that extra $5, $10, $15, $20 is worth it, they understand that we're investing our time and knowledge into them, so we're giving them the best bang for their buck. Instead of just best bang for your buck being high THC, it's no, you're looking for something that's going to keep you hyper-focused and locked in when you're doing work. Look at the terpene profile on this. Or, when we put that investment into them, it's no longer about the money, it's about the value. And we sell the value instead of just selling the dollars. Because a lot of these dispensaries that are running these massive discounts, they're running 30% off every week. Again, not only are they devaluing brands like we talked about, but what are your profit margins at that point? We all know how expensive it is to operate in cannabis. You're most likely keystoning that product. Your COGS, if you're really running a tight ship, are going to be, or just your labor costs alone should be less than 20%. Then you're going to offer discounts to, different groups, and then you're going to have loyalty points. Next thing you know, you're now losing money. You're bringing in great revenue. You made $50,000 that day, but how much of that is actual take-home money that you can reinvest into that business, you can reinvest into your staff and into your products? If operators continue to just run this business model, we are all going to suffer because of it. But it's really, really simple to not need to rely on that business model. And you can't always have the best budget to build out the most beautiful, elegant dispensary. That's okay. Make it comfortable. You can't always have this super crazy, staff of people that have all these, certifications. That's fine. There are countless different free outlets to be able to educate your team better. And you can't always carry different products, or the products that you want in your dispensary because, sometimes brands get exclusivity with certain retailers in towns and the others don't get access, but that's okay. Be decisive and conscious on what you do have access to and how that can fill the needs of your consumers. Otherwise, if you take out one of those pieces, you can still be successful. But if you take 2 of those away, that is a straight path to closing your doors faster than you ever intended, losing all of your investments along the way.
I think you hit a passion. Thank you, everybody. Everybody's still here, so you can certainly come and ask questions, but I'm going to close this down and say everybody should go eat and get something to drink and smoke.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hey, real quick, before Mike turns this down, I just want to plug real quick that on Thursday, November 20th, we are doing the NJCBA's first supplier spotlight. recognizing that we need to support our current open and functioning operators. We're creating supplier spotlights, which are events where the cultivators and manufacturers can send product compliantly to a dispensary and lounge, or a dispensary that has a consumption space, on private property with it, where retailers, the dispensary managers, the inventory managers, the owners can come to these events where they can try products hands-on, consume them, taste them, understand them, while meeting with the team that are making these products. It gives you the opportunity as a retailer to come in and explore hands-on in the most efficient way possible. And it gives all of our suppliers the opportunity to showcase all of their hard work. And we were talking about differentiation. It allows them to hands-on show that differentiation of their products in real time. So if we're starting out where we're going to do each event focusing only on cultivators or manufacturers, so we can really give the proper spotlight that they deserve and keep the conversations a little bit more honed in. If you are a cultivator, please reach out to myself, please reach out to Jenna Russo, please reach out to Shergo, get involved. You can be a supplier even if you are not an NJCBA member. We want you guys to get involved and be a part of this. If you are a retailer, we're going to get the ticket link going, on all of our channels. Please come, please support, not only just to support the CBA and the work that we're doing, not just to support the suppliers out there, but to support yourself. This is the perfect opportunity for you to see all the products out there in one efficient location, taste test everything, and then make strategic decisions on how you're going to spend your dollars. So more will come with that, but please definitely keep your eyes open. This is something new that we're trying. This is going to be, something that we're going to have to learn by doing, but we're doing this event specifically structured to support all of our suppliers in the state and make it more efficient for our retailers to be able to explore these products. And we really want to see this become something new and something beneficial for the entire supply chain, top to bottom. Thank you.
How about that, everybody? Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Dispensary Guy, live, New Jersey Cannabusiness Association Policy Pipeline. Remember to hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you like this. And join up with New Jersey Cannabis Association. They're getting things done. They're going to take a couple pictures here. We're going to wrap everything up. Thanks for joining me. And we'll be live tomorrow night, back in this, not in this chair, in my chair, back in the studio, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. every Wednesday night, live, the Dispensary Guy. Stop night, Stigma. Getting it done. Thanks, everybody, for watching tonight, joining me on this special Tuesday night live. We were here live with the panel there and everybody else. You see everybody there finishing up. We had Matt, we had Spencer, we had Jenna, Shergo, and, of course, Kristen from Trichome Analytica. Thank you, everybody, for watching so much, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks so much, and everybody have a great night. Remember, let's stop that green stigma everywhere.